What's up, guys? We are starting soon. Let's see if I can hear myself. What's up, guys? We're starting soon. I don't have a timer for some reason. Yep, I can hear myself, so this is gonna work out pretty decent. I turned down the audio though, so let me take these earplugs off. I just wanted to test to see if I could hear myself through the live stream, and so yep, that technical part is taken care of. All right. So what we're doing today, we are doing a human generator. Very should be fun. 3D model build. So I'm gonna go in on Blender, and we're gonna work on. We're gonna be using Blender 3.1 Alpha, the most recent Blender experimental build, and it should really turn out to be a sensational experience in a live stream. So hopefully y'all folks are willing to tune in if you're up this early in the morning. I don't know what your time zone is or whatever the case may be, but it's going to be interesting. I just got to do a little bit more checking for technical details to see if everything is lined up properly. And other than that, I think it's going to be interesting. Let me see my Gmail, not Gmail, my YouTube real quick. I'm not talking about Gmail. All right, let's try to sign in. I changed my password recently because somehow I forgot it. Okay, hold on one second. Gotta log in again. And let's see. We'll be starting maybe within a minute or so. Trying to get into my Gmail account. I don't know why they have this stupid two-step verification thing. Let's see. Open the Gmail app in iPhone. Go send notifications to your iPhone. Do I have anybody here yet? If I have anybody who showed up already, feel free to comment that you're here, and I should be able to see it, and then I'll try to start sooner. But we should be able to start within a minute or so. So let's see, Gmail app on iPhone. Google sent the notification to your iPhone. Let me go and check real quick what Gmail is saying. Yes, it's me. Okay, here we go. All right, so then we're gonna log in through that, and let's go to the live session. Just have to double check, make sure my live session is working right. Yep, it's live. And turn on this here. That's good. And what else do we have to do before we go in? Says it looks good. We got 2 viewers. That's what's up. All right, so we'll start up right now. We'll transition over. And thanks a lot, like I said, folks, for showing up. It's gonna be a nice session, I hope. Without any major issues. I don't think it's gonna have any major issues or anything. Let me close my other web browser so it doesn't get confusing. And we can go in. Okay, let me get rid of this adjustment. And here we go. So we're jumping in, folks. Here we go, transitioning in 3, 2, 1, contact. All right, so here we go. We're on Blender 3.1 Alpha, and we're going to use the human generator add-on for Blender. It is a really dope add-on. If y'all folks never heard of it before or never used it before, I highly recommend for y'all folks to use it. Maybe even during the session or after or whatever the case may be, but you're gonna have to make a purchase of it. I'm not an affiliate not yet, but maybe in the future I will be an affiliate. So if you go to visit it, I'm not making any money off of it. But actually I don't even have a link to it. But I'll just go in and type in human generator blender, and then it brings me to the blender market. So if you want to go get it, just type in human generator blender, something to that effect, and it should come up as the first search on Google. And when you get to it, you'll notice it has a male and a female on the left and the right of this image here. And this is the latest version, version 3. They have two different pricings for it, $68 and $128. The difference would be personal portfolio use for the $68 one and commercial use for the $128 use. So this is up to you how you choose to go for it, for whatever way and method that you choose, but it's highly recommended because what you can create, you're going to get to see here in this live stream. It's pretty dope. You'll see some of this stuff that they showcase here on the screen. See endless variations, adaptable skin, one-click expressions, particle hairstyles, adjustable outfits, clothing patterns, pose library, things like that. So we'll just basically cover a lot of that stuff in this session. I know a lot of other channels have covered it, but I haven't covered every little detail for my community out on YouTube for virtual intel. So let's start by that, just by jumping in on that note. So let's see, if you never got a Blender add-on, they're very simple to access and to utilize. Once you get the add-on through the email, because they're going to send you the file access through email, and then when you get it, you'll go in through edit and preferences. You're basically going to get a zip folder, and once you get the zip folder, you're going to go through where it says add-ons over here, and you're going to go to install. Now make sure you send the zip folder to some sort of a location on your computer that you can access, that you have a knowledge of where it's at. Or it may be defaulted in your downloads folder from your web browser. So whatever way you choose to access, pretty much you're going to go through install, and you're going to find that folder. So mine's is in my Blender folder for add-ons. I got Blender add-ons, and I believe, hold on one second, Blender add-ons, and it was somewhere in here, I think. No, this is the D drive, sorry about that. So mine's is on my my C drive on my computer, and through, hold on one second, I just want to show y'all folks how you would access it, because the average person may not know. So I'm making this live stream for everyone who's going to choose to watch. So if you already know how to do this, then just bear with me. Here goes the human generator add-on here. This is the main folder that I have for it, but it is a subfolder. Let's see. I have a subfolder for it somewhere. Not a subfolder, an add-on folder, which is this one, the zip. So you can throw in the zip, and then that should be able to tie in the add-on when you click on install add-on. And after that, you should be good. So I'm going to cancel that because I already got it running. But once you get it activated, it's going to show up over here. Actually, it won't show up with a check mark. So you have to place a check mark in the add-on itself once you add the zip folder. And then when you're done, you click this drop arrow, because you want to go in and do certain things with it. It's gonna ask you to set up a certain selection of a file or a bunch of files that you want to add to the actual add-on, and those files are gonna help you to expand the tool so it has everything that it's supposed to have, like all the different content packs and stuff like that. So see, it says content packs. You can select it, and I downloaded a bunch of content packs that were available. So there you go with that. Hit the X. Oh, and make sure you save the setting. In order to save the setting, you just go to Preferences, go to Save over here on the left of the screen, Save and Load, and oh, this is autosave. So that just tells you that it's set up for autosave. Make sure auto run Python scripts is selected. Make sure that's checked. So you go to these three dashes at the bottom corner of this Blender Preferences pop-up window, and then you go to Save Preferences. And that's that. After that, you basically have to go to the right of the screen. They have more like a tool panel that pops up. It's not really tools. These are all add-ons. So what is a Blender add-on, by the way? Basically, a Blender add-on is something that gives you greater functionality, much more functionality than what Blender generally comes with by default. So Blender, as the 3D software it is, 3D software suite type of thing, it has so many different options and things that you can do with it. Starting out, like you have all these differing workspaces and things like that. You start out by default with layout, and you can change it how you see fit, but you have to understand where things are located in order to do stuff. So once you get past all that, if you're brand new to Blender, you'll start to recognize that on the right of the screen there's a lot of tools and functionality through add-ons and stuff like that. If you don't have any add-ons activated, then you'll only have by default this item and this tool, active tool menu options, and then you have the view. And these are just basically ways to manipulate maybe the 3D cursor. You want to do moves with the 3D cursor and make it move a specific direction like this. That's the 3D cursor moving right now. You can move it in the x-axis, y-axis, or z-axis. And that's really important because wherever you choose to position the 3D cursor, whenever you add something as an object or whatever 3D elements that you choose to bring into your scene, it will add it where the 3D cursor is at. So say I wanted to bring in a cube, see it through the 3D cube up there, as opposed to the center of the scene and the origin point of the scene. So the origin point of the scene is generally the 0, 0, 0 point in terms of the XYZ axis. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to put all that stuff out there so that you understand when we're doing this stuff, what's going to actually happen on the screen as well. Things that are happening like precursors, based on how it's set up by default, Blender's default settings. So say you wanted to move the 3D cursor back to the center. We're going to do Shift S on the keyboard of my computer, and then do cursor to world origin. They have these menus that pop out called pie menus. And you can go in and you can either type the number that's there. So I can type the 1 on the keyboard to send it to the world origin, or I can select here. Now the cursor goes down. So now if I wanted to send the cube to the origin point, I can do Shift S and do selection to cursor, and that will send the cube down to the center point like that. So this is the kind of stuff that you have to know before you jump in and start really playing around with add-ons and stuff like that, because then it wouldn't really make any sense if you don't know how the viewport works. But I mean, you could make sense of stuff, but it's hard to really truly manipulate things and troubleshoot things to figure out why something's not working in your Blender viewport and in your scene, because a lot of the times you're gonna have to do that. Definitely with animation, you got to do a lot of troubleshooting sometimes because the rigs may be having some poor functionality or something like that. So let's move on. So to get the human character started, you have to hit this click here to select. Once you got the human generator add-on selected, so first you have to choose what type of sex you want, so male or female. We're gonna go with a female character today, and I'm gonna try to break down every little detail that I can so you can understand everything that's available. So on the top area we have this UI tab option, and then you can switch around back and forth. You can go to the advanced option in the UI tab or the little human icon. The advanced tab, which is the gear icons, give you more functionality as opposed to what you get by default here in the add-on itself. So keep in mind, you'll be going to that part where it says extras or advanced once you get your character already set up and you got it built into the screen. Pretty much you'll be able to go in and then finalize the character, so to speak, and once the character is adjusted, got gear on, clothes on, whatever textures you want, things like that, you'll be going into that gear here to play around and set up stuff, maybe from the developer tools. You can go into the mesh clothing. You can go into all these different options here. So keep that in mind. Now this previous and next thing I really didn't play with. I never really had to utilize it or deselect or delete. So maybe in this session I can play with it just to see what it does, but it hasn't really done anything for me. I never tried to use it before. Maybe I clicked on it by mistake, but it didn't do anything. So I don't know what these are functionally useful for, or whatever the case is, why you would need this section here. But we'll try to figure out. Maybe we can figure it out in this session. So we're gonna click here, select here. When you click that big box, then it pulls up all the differing options that are available regarding the selections of what type of character you want, character model you want. So right now currently is Asian characters that are showing up. If I scroll down, it's going to move over to Caucasian. They have Hispanic and they have Black as well. So it's all up to you what type of character you want. For some reason mine's is not coming out looking that user friendly the way it usually does, which brings up all of the options at once. But I don't know, maybe it's because of the sizing of my screen. If I change the size of my screen, sometimes the sizing of your screen can cause some issues. So let me change the size of my screen resolution. It's recommended for 1920 by 1080p. That's pixel size, but we're going to drop it down to 1680 by 1050 just to see what it does. Keep the changes, and then we'll go back and select this. And as you can see, now I got more characters that show up on the screen. So you may have that issue as well. If you do, that's a pretty easy fix. What I'm going to do today, since I haven't done any Hispanic characters, I'll go in and jump in and select Hispanic. And I guess Hispanic is kind of like a blend between Caucasian, African, American, or Black, or whatever. So I'm not really sure how they made the character, but it's all good. We're going to select Generate New Human, and let's get rid of the cube. So you just click it and highlight it with your left click mouse button. You can hit the delete key on the keyboard to get rid of stuff. So we're going to hit generate, and it's going to go in and generate the human character within a respectable size, so you can see it in the viewport and you can manipulate it, and you can do whatever that you feel you see fit to do. So now you got your first human character constructed and modeled and everything. It's all done for you. Now keep in mind, this is not a nude character. So to show you that, it's gonna have some sort of a clothing on, bra and panty kind of thing, or maybe it could be like a bikini that is set up. I don't know what they have by default, but you'll see. So it looks kind of like a bikini, bra, or panty kind of setup. And so what I like to do is go in and kind of get close up to the face, because my whole thing about human characters is modeling the face. I really want to detail the face to look different from the default character model that they have offered. So everyone's going to have this default model. So I want my character to pretty much look unique and different. So how do I figure this out on how to make the character look different with something like a human generator add-on? You have to go in and basically rework from the differing options that they have available. You have to play with all the different items on the screen, so different functional options. So the first one that shows up is body, right? So with the body, you can go in and just adjust it how you see fit. You got muscular, overweight, skinny, things like that. You have individual scale. You can go in and change every little detail how you see fit. The head, the neck, the chest, shoulder, breast, hips, etc. So I don't really care to do that too much, because that really doesn't float my boat in terms of how I want my character to look 100%. I'm more into the face for character modeling. So because this is automated anyway, so I'm not really worried too much about all the details. I'm just trying to get a character up and running so that I can animate the emotions of the face, facial features and things like that, expressions I should say, and get it in an animatable format so I can get the character to maybe portray what a real human would be saying or performing in an animation. So now one of the things that I do when I first start, I make sure that I hide the bones, because the bones can get in a way, it could become a little bit annoyance or disturbing to, the viewer, whoever's creating the character or trying to remodel the character. So it's not really you're creating it, because it's already generated. So the character modeling has been done for you. So you're doing remodeling basically. So you're going in and just trying to reface it, restructure it, retexture it, just putting details how you see fit to make it look unique and different from the default that you see when you first start. So now when I selected the bones and I hid it, I should say, something happened with the add-on. So whenever you deselect the mesh of the character, the add-on will go into its default position, which is it will go out of the selection phase where you have all the options, and it will just show this part by default. That means that it's deselected. So in order to bring the options back, you have to select anywhere on the mesh of the character. So as soon as you left click the character, it comes back up. All the options that you had opened up on the screen. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that once you add the hair by default, the way that the developer of the add-on made it, the hair will actually try to hide itself. It will auto hide itself. So I don't have any hair right now, and I really don't care to play with the hair at the moment, because I don't want to go through all of those differing issues with the hair hiding, auto hiding every time I move around and change to a different position of the options. Now, when you select another option, the hair will hide, even though you try to make sure that the hair is visible. So it's kind of something that can become an annoyance as well, while you're trying to go through the character development phase and building phase of remodeling the character and stuff. So far I haven't done anything, but what I want to do is just play around with the random option. You have an option to play around with random for every other option on the screen that it gives you. So not everyone will give you the randomization tool, but some of them will. For the body per se, you hit the random and it will go in and try to randomly redesign and rebuild it. And it's very faint starting out. You can't really tell, but when you keep selecting it, it will keep going in to build a different physique for the body. So as you can see, the shape of the body and contours change a little bit. Even the face. So like I said, this is a good way if you don't want to go through every individual slider and slide it left and right and go to extremes and things like that, then Randomize works really well. So muscles, I like my characters to have muscles. I like them to be in shape. I don't want my character to be too skinny. I want them to have a full body and not too much weight, but not too skinny, too small. With the head, I like the head generally to be big, so it stands out overall with respect to the body. And generally, when you have an animation or animatable characters, you want your character to have a little bit of a larger head than normal, because you want your character to stand out, obviously, so it looks unique and different. So I got that taken care of. I think I got the body the way I want it to look. Maybe make the breast a little bit bigger so it can stand out as a female as opposed to a male body type. And then let's see, hips, go with the hips. Let's see the thighs. Hold on 1 second. Make the thighs a little bit bigger or wider. And yeah, that's a pretty decent female model, I think. Not bad to start with. The legs, I think I'm good. Let's see the shins. Maybe make the shins a little thicker so she has more stability. I mean, that's not going to make a difference when it comes to motion capture, whether you make them skinny or thicker, or maybe a moderate size, a medium type of a build. But that's neither here nor there, basically. So now, say you wanted to hide this part, you can click on the title of the option that you opened up, and it will hide. So what it just did, it told me a message about the hair. Let's see. You're not gonna see it again because because I didn't activate the hair. Let's just give her some short hair. Reason why I want to do that is because I have issues when I'm animating with my character, and with the longer hair, the animations are not looking that great. But it's all good. I just want to get the character to flow. Pretty much, I don't want to have too many issues. And look, the bones came back for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, by default, certain things are just gonna keep acting up. So I threw the hair in there just to quickly do what I got to do. Now, a way to avoid from the hair auto hiding, you can use the control key on the keyboard. When you select an option, it won't auto hide. See that? So that's a little tip right there for folks who are trying to bypass the auto hide issue. See, now look, it auto hided it because I did not hold the control key on the keyboard and select one of the options. So now it's auto hiding it. And I think the developers gave that option, an automated option like that, so that whoever's choosing to create the character with their add-on, they don't have to deal with it trying to render all the time with the hair, because the hair sometimes it takes up a lot of data on your computer when you're trying to render or showcase the character. The hair will slow down the computations of what the add-on's supposed to output, or input output type of thing. So that's the remedy for it. Now, if you wanted to also bring up the hair, you can select this little eye here where it says children are hidden. And this is for eyes, for the eyebrows, but it basically works for the hair as well. So you can either be in the hair option or the eyes option, and you can select this little tiny eye, and it brings the hair back into view. So there you go. You got two different ways to do it. So I'm gonna hold the control key on the keyboard instead, so I can keep the hair in view. So that's the reason why I didn't really want the hair to show up in the beginning. Length, I'm not really into length. See, I just did it again. So I got to go back to the option, and it's just very tedious kind of thing. So let's go to length. This time I'm going to use the control key. And you can play with the length if you want, but I'm not really going to mess with her length. I'm going to leave it the same way it is. But you can go in and mess with that if you want. We'll go to face, and we can go in and we can adjust the face. Now, I found a really unique way to adjust the face. They have these presets at the bottom. When you go down to the presets, you have these variations. So this is a very unique way to go in and come up with a character that stands out as something that you actually have made separate from what other people have made. So by going into the variations, you can play around and you can move these sliders for the variations, and it's going to change the way that the face looks. So good example, I'm moving the slider now, and you can see that the face structure is changing. See that? So you can play around with a whole bunch of different variations. You go from 0 to 1, and depending on what type of sliders that you slide of the variations, you'll get a certain type of look of the character. So you can keep manipulating it and manipulating it. If you go too far with too many variations, then the character will start looking like an elf. See that? She kind of looks like an elf. So you kind of like don't want to go too crazy. So just like moderate yourself. Now, once you got that kind of a thing that you want, you think this is what you want it to look like somewhat in some degree, you scroll up and then you start manipulating other options. So if you go to randomize at this point, it's going to throw in a random setup for the character. Thanks, Billy. It's going to throw in a random setup for the character, but within the range of the variations that you put in. So, good example, I'll hit randomize all, and as you see, it keeps the ears at the same scale, somewhat of the same scale, but the jaw just dropped. See, so you can play around and keep randomizing, and you'll notice that the ears are still like elf-like. See, so this is the kind of things that I figured out, and it took me some time. If I go to the mouth, I can go in and just adjust the mouth. If I don't like what I see, I can play with the mouth. This is the offset. See, if I want like bigger lips, I can bring the offset up. If I want to make it wide, put it like that, and then the lips will start looking a lot wider and a lot thicker. You know, things like that. So you just play with all these different options here, and just to see what you're going to come up with. Custom, I haven't been able to get custom to work. I'm not really sure how custom works. But let's see. Let me play with the Asian slider a little bit. Play with the black slider a little bit, and then Caucasian slider. Okay, so now she looks like this. Her jaw kind of is a little masculine looking, but I'm gonna keep randomizing a little just to see what it does. Now, once you lock in on something that you like, you might want to chill at that point and then go back and adjust some of the variations. And once you adjust some of the variations, I guarantee you're gonna come up with a character that looks very, very unique. Because by randomizing it, you already changed the original setup of the face. So it's not gonna be the same face no matter what. If you bring all these variations back to 0, there was only one variation that was set up at 1. So if you bring them all back to 0, it's going to definitely make the character look different. It might look a lot better, actually. So this is something that I played with, and I manipulated at one point, and I really hooked up my character to look really good. So this is an example of something you can do as well. So the variations is just to start up with just making the model look a little different starting out. Bam. So now I took all the variations down to 0. So as you can see, she looks a little different. She kind of looks masculine still, because whatever I did with the randomize, somehow it made her look a little bit masculine. So I can work on that as well. So let me bring some of these sliders down. Okay, and just leave the Asian slider up. And then I'm going to go randomize here at this point. And there it goes. Now she looks a lot more feminine. I actually like this look here. I think she looks pretty. So my goal is basically to bring out her beauty and try to make her stand out as a really, really good looking character of my own making and design. So now you see she looks normal to, like, she doesn't look like an elf. But I did all the variations just to draw out the original structure, and then I randomized to get somewhere where I liked it, and then I brought back the variations just to see how she would look. So if I wanted to, I can go back and remodel with the variations again, you know, and just slightly take it off of where it's at and just try to bring a fine-tuned look of her with the variations, but not go too far out. See that? So now she's looking, still she looks pretty. I think she still looks pretty. She doesn't look masculine. I mean, her eyes may need some reworking, so maybe I can go in on the eyes and then start playing with the eyes a little bit just to rework that portion and see what comes of it, you know. So you just have to keep playing around with all the different sliders until you got exactly what you want. Like orbit size, I don't know what that is. I guess that's the eyebrows. So I'll bring it down a little bit to see the height. So this is the height of the eyes. I like characters with big eyes, so I would lift that height up a little bit. Well, actually go to the max, and this is wide. That looks cool. I like characters with big eyes as 3D models. Depends on what you want. Some people may not like it, but that's my character there with that. And then maybe play with a little bit more variation. Looks like that brought up her mouth a little bit. And See what this does. That's adjusting the ears. So she definitely looks unique. She looks very different. Now, if I was to put some hair on her, I think she would look really, really good. So let's just try that real quick. And I'll go and hide this option for the face and just bring up the hair and try the hair once more. So with the hair, we'll go with this one just to see what it looks like. And yeah, she definitely stands out with the hair. She looks a lot different. The nose is not bad. I actually like the nose. I like the lips. Let me go hide these bones again. I think this is unique, and it's a standout character. It's a very different look from what I started out with. So hopefully that helps y'all folks who maybe are trying to use the add-on and you don't know of a way to make your character look unique from the defaulted state. So that's a good technique right there. Now going in a little bit deeper, let's select the mesh again. We're going to hide this section, this option. We're going to finish the creation phase now because I think this is what I want the character to look like. So I'm going to go hit finish, and then where it says OK, click to confirm. Make sure you click this gray area, or you can double click it, and that will finalize the character and get the character model set up for the next phase. So the next phase would be to add whatever type of textures that you want it to look like. And so the clothing, you can add a pose if you want to. You can do different things. See, the hair is not showing, so you can go back into the hair option. Now, generally it wouldn't have the hair option here, but I found a way to get the hair option activated through the add-on screen through the preferences. So you go through the preferences, Blender preferences, go back to the add-ons, and go to the human generated add-on itself, and then you can choose different options. So we go to settings, and in this settings option here, you get to choose what you want to select by default here. So see, it says auto hide hair children when switching tabs. You can deselect that if you want. And then it says having auto hide enables improves viewport performance. I'm not really worried about my performance because my computer's pretty powerful. So I can deselect that auto hide thing and it won't auto hide it. Also, it says show pop-up when auto hiding here. So this shows the pop-up. If you don't want that, you deselect it. And then let's see what else they have. Show hair section. So this part where it says show hair sections, you can choose to select both phases. That means in the creation or it's called creation phase. So in the creation phase, you can have the hair option showing there, and also after you finalize the character in this phase where you have clothing, footwear, pose, and expression, where they have the rig options and things like that, you can also have the hair option there. But if you don't have this auto hide selected, then you probably don't need to have the hair here, so you wouldn't have to change it to both. But I'm just gonna deselect auto hide just for shits and giggles because I didn't do it before. And I'm gonna save my preferences, and now I don't have to worry about the hair auto hiding. So let me go and activate the hair. And whenever I move from one place to the next, the hair shouldn't change. So now let's go out of here and we're gonna go to clothing. See, now the hair is always showing. So that's the method and technique to fix that issue if you think it's an issue and it becomes annoying to you. Now with the clothing option, clothing is pretty cool. Since we don't need the hair option no more, we're gonna deselect that through the add-on. So hold on one second. I'll get back to the clothing. So where's that both phases. We're going to make it creation phase only. And so I don't have to keep staring at that option there. And boom. I forgot to save it, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. So if you ever want to go back to the creation phase, you can click that. And that's where all the initial options are set at. So I'm not going to select it now. I just want to go and work on the clothing. But it's all up to what you want to do. You can do that if you want. The click here to select, this is referring to clothing. So what I recommend for you to do where it says all categories, you click the drop arrow and then go to extra outfit pack or extra outfits pack. When you do that, it gives you more options when you choose to click here. So you get much more clothing options than the original options that show up. So the original options is when it's set at all categories. When you click select here, it's just going to give you what you see here, which is a bunch of suits and then some tops and pants. And this to me is just very limited. So if you want to expand that and go out to find more stuff, you go to extra outfit packs. And then you can get a dress, you can get a jumpsuit or a flight suit, you can get another kimono type of dress, you can get a lab technician coat plus pants and shirt, and you can get a pirate presentation, you can get more like a dress, what do they call it? A skirt and a top type of thing. And then, you know, you basically get more clothing. So let's go with the dress just to play around. Want to see what that does. I don't know why the bones keep coming back. It shouldn't really do that, but it is doing it. It's all good. That is somewhat annoying. And it's all good, whatever. So we're going to select the mesh again because I want to go in and give her some shoes. So we're going to go to the footwear and we're going to give her, I guess we'll give her this shoe here, the pirate boots, and just change the color of it to make it look stylish. If you want to change any of the outfit stuff, what you want to do is you just select it. So you go and select it. So I just selected the boots in the viewport, and then it gives you options on the add-on to change the color and texture or whatever and manipulate stuff. You can go in and manipulate the pattern. So if I wanted to add a special type of pattern to the boot, I can do that. I just select in here and I can go in and change it. And these are the different boot patterns or whatever patterns that are available. I kind of find the camouflage pattern something that I like using, but you can use any pattern. So I'm going to use that one just to make it look like it's a specialized boot. And then I'm going to go in and change the color. All the different colors that I want to change. And I don't know why it didn't change everything. There's some portion of it that's black, which I would love to change that. So there's probably something over here that I can change. So we'll go in. Yeah, so it's that right there. So I'll change that to white. And then the green pattern, I'll change to like a pink or something. I don't know. I'm just playing around. I don't know what I really want it to look like. So there you go with that stylized looking boot. And then I want to go in and change her dress. So we can go in and just change the color of the dress how we see fit. Maybe like that kind of color. I don't know. That looks nice. That's not bad. Yeah, all right. So now say I wanted to change the background that she's in of the scene and I don't like this background. Whatever the case may be, I can go in and change that as well. So to do that, I would have to go to the upper portion of the top right area where you have these viewport shading options and manipulate the viewport through the shading. So for now, I'm in the viewport shading material preview, which isn't a render preview. It's a good way to still see the viewport operate functionally and fully working without having any disturbances besides whatever the add-on is putting and placing on the screen, with the hair auto popping out in and out and all that, or the bones coming back in and out, things like that. So you're gonna hit this overlays, not overlays, sorry. You're gonna hit this little arrow here that says shading, the drop arrow, and then you can go in and you can play with this portion here. Currently it says scene lights is deactivated because you have to hit a check mark to activate it, and when you activate it, as you can see, the lights of the scene will jump in, and you want that to work out for your skin of your character, mainly the face, so you can get a differing more of a lighting setup for your face of your character. And the face of the character will start to look a little bit more realistic depending on the lighting. So if your lighting is set up really good and your background is set up pretty decent, contrasting color or texture, not texture, but colors, and nice lighting, you'll get a better view of what the character is going to look, stand out to be, how it's going to look. So we can do some of that stuff playing around. But what I want to do now for this moment, from where the Blender viewport was set up by default, I want to take some of this stuff and change it around. So right now, what you're seeing is, this is where I got the camera set up. This camera is designed to render the whatever's in the viewport, whatever's within the range and view of the camera lens. This is a digital camera, or not really digital, but a virtual camera. So whatever's in its range, it's going to render it once you choose to select this render button and click the render image. So that's something to keep in mind, where you want to put your camera at. But most people will put it very close to the character. So if you want to do that, you can actually add a camera really close to the character and leave the defaulted camera wherever it's sitting at. So that way you can probably do like a zoom in or zoom out type of thing, whatever the case may be. So currently what I'm going to do is send the new camera to the 3D cursor and then just bring it up to her face. You can also select the bone and move the 3D cursor to the bone location. I'll just do that real quick. We're going to unhide the bones by using the alternate key on the keyboard and the H key. And then I'll go from object mode to pose mode. But we have to select the bone itself. Even though it was highlighted, for some reason it wasn't selected all the way. So we're going to go to pose mode. What pose mode does is allow you to manipulate the bones, or the rig. They call it a rig. If it's an advanced rig, it could be a highly detailed advanced rig. Basically, you have digital bones for your character and you can manipulate them how you see fit. So what I did, I selected the eye bone, the center one, because I want to send the 3D cursor to it. How you send the 3D cursor to it is just like what I did in the beginning with the cube. We're going to do Shift A, not Shift A, sorry about that, Shift S, and then we're going to send the cursor to the selected option or selected thing that I have highlighted on the screen, which is the center eye bone. And there it goes. So the 3D cursor goes to the center eye bone. The reason why I wanted to send it there is because that's where I want to send the camera. So now I'm going to do Shift A. Oh, it's not working here for some reason. Shift A. How about Control A? Nope. So Shift A is generally going to be used to add something on the screen. But for now, I'm in the pose mode, so it's not going to add anything that I want to add. So I want to add a camera. So let's go to object mode, switch back to object mode, and then do Shift A. And now it gives me the options to add. So now I'm going to just scroll down and look for the camera, and I'm going to select the camera with my left click mouse button, and it brings the camera in view. Now, I don't like the orientation of where the camera is oriented at, but I can fix that easily by just using the gizmo to adjust things, and then I can play with the camera, or I could delete that camera and add another camera in at this 3D orientation, and it should theoretically correct it the way I wanted it to be positioned. So we're gonna go Shift A again, add the camera, and now the orientation is different. It's exactly where I want it to be positioned. So let's hit the negative X or the X position on the gizmo, and you'll see that the camera is pointed exactly the way I wanted it to be pointed. I want it to be facing the dead center of the character's head. So now all I have to do is drag the camera back maybe about this point, and I use the move tool over here on the left of the screen to do that. Because when you do select the move, you can move it and pull it back with the grab tool options. They have these little handles. So depending on where you put the camera, it will determine what it's viewing, obviously what is going to show. Now this camera is not active yet. It's just placed into the viewport. In order to activate it, you have to go up to view and then go to cameras and then set active object as camera. Or you can hit the control number pad 0 key. So you go select the control key on the keyboard and hold it, and then depress the 0 number pad key, and that should bring it up. The reason why it didn't come up is because I had the view option selected as well. So let's do it again. And now what it does is it sets that camera as the active camera. So now this is what's in view, is just her face and her head, her hair. So anything within this rectangle zone is what the camera is actually viewing and scoping. The lens of the camera is scoping this area here, and anything within that range is going to be rendered. Let's hide the bones so you can see, and we're going to move the 3D cursor back just to get it out of that position, send it back to the world origin. So now this is what would show up in the render. So let me just give you a test render real quick. We're going to go render, but when I use the render option on the top up here, I will have to also change the settings in this area on the right lower to mid area of the screen. So you got to go in and you have to set the render. First, set the render engine to what you want it. So it's by default set up as Eevee. You can change it to workbench, to cycles. I'm going to change it to cycles, but I'm not going to talk when I'm rendering, because when you talk doing live streams during cycles render, it's not gonna be a good thing. It actually will freeze and start causing a mute stutter. So my voice will start to stutter and break up basically if I'm rendering in cycles. So when I switch to cycles, I'm just gonna go silent and let y'all folks see what it does, how it looks when you render it. So I'm gonna render it first without any background adjustments. I didn't really adjust the background yet. I'm just showing y'all folks how I want to set it up, and then you're gonna get to see what it looks like by default based on all the default settings of rendering by the developers. The Blender developers set up the rendering options by default, and they all were gonna just be set up as they are. You can go in and adjust them and change them so that you can get differences in your renders, and your renders can look a lot better over time, and things can really start to turn into some amazing looks. I can show y'all folks as well, but I'll show y'all folks a little bit after I bring this up. I'll show you some examples of what I was able to produce by playing around with the render settings, and also all of the differing settings of the texture stuff that I wanted to adjust her to make her look a certain way. So let me just render it real quick. So we're going to switch to cycles. I'm going to turn this CPU to GPU compute. And it probably is causing issues now. I hope not. But right now it's not actually doing any rendering, I don't think. So it shouldn't cause any issues. Let me switch it to CPU compute. And the viewport, I have to change this to 0 starting out so I don't get any issues when I'm talking. All right, so we're gonna go to GPU compute. Let me see if I have any sound off issues on my setup over here. And let's make sure that we switched over. Okay, we did switch over. Cool. We got a lot of these foreign people that show up in the text. What is going on? Why do they keep showing up on my screen? I got to get rid of this stuff. I have a lot of like spammy foreign names that show up on my chat, and then they type some weird stuff. So I just got to get rid of that. But other than that, I just saw it just now. So let's see. Let's throw this in. I'm just testing right now real quick just to see what it sounds like. And I got some ads running. I don't know why, but let's see. All right, we're good. So let's see what it sounds like. Just testing right now real quick. All right, it sounds good. So what we're gonna do at this point, we're gonna render, we're gonna set up the render to, what is that, 4,000 samples, denoise. Actually, let's just set it up for rendering at 500 samples. I'm gonna take off the denoiser, because the denoiser, what it does is it splashes the screen with some sort of levels of lights, like really, really tiny lights and all kinds of weird lights. And what it does is it's supposed to get rid of the scatter and the noise. So the noise that comes up with all of the differing pixels that are going to show on the screen when cycles rendering is happening. So the denoiser basically speeds up the rendering process and makes the render look a little different, but it gets kind of blurry and weird looking. So I don't really necessarily like the denoiser too much, but I just want to show y'all folks what the render looks like without the denoiser. I'm gonna leave the noise threshold set up. I think that's what this is here. Yeah, so I'll leave that there the way it is. And let's hit render. Oh, before we hit render, I forgot, you have to send the render to a specific location on your computer. So to do that, you have to go to this option here that says output properties on the right of the screen, and then scroll down where it says output, and then you have to change this folder. You don't really have to, but I like to change it and designate what type of folder I want to send it to. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to create a new folder, and her name is Rise. So it takes a little time right now because I have a D drive. I have an expansion drive set up for my computer. So once that takes, after I selected it, once it takes and it allows me to do it, I will type in Rise as a subfolder for her. All right, so now we got that. We're going to double click that and then hit accept. So it's only going to go to that folder. Every time I render, it's going to go to that folder. But actually, I want to create another subfolder in there. So we're going to have to go to my folders itself, and then I'll get to a folder that's close to it. and then hit the up arrow and then go to it. And let's create another folder here, another subfolder, and I'm gonna call this a nim, and then create one more folder and call it renders. Oops, sorry. Render. Here we go. All right, so that's gonna be the subfolder I'm gonna send it to. So let me adjust one more time to the render and hit accept. And there we go. So now we're gonna select render and go render image. So as soon as I hit render image, it's gonna show up in that folder. Also, you can select the F12 on your keyboard. So it's either this button or F12. So it's gonna now it's rendering. Okay, so the render is done, so I should be able to talk now without having any stutters of the audio and things like that. Once the render is done, you're good as a live streamer to be able to talk if you're rendering in cycles. I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing that or if that's what the case is, but it is what it is for me. So why did I want y'all folks to see this, and why did I render it? There's two different reasons. I rendered it just to see what the default set up the character to look like. And also I want to test her texture. So I want to see what the texture looks like in a poor lighting condition. And a poor lighting condition is what the Blender default, what the viewport of Blender provides by default, because it's not well lit. It's a really bad lighting scenario. So once I see what I have to adjust and how I have to adjust it is based on the poor conditions, I know where I want to put my lights at. I know where I want to, what type of texture I want to fix and adjust. I know how I want the light to hit her face, and if I want to add some sort of maybe mascara, makeup, etc. All those different details work out from this first render, this initial render of the poorest quality that it shows and displays by default. So whenever you're doing character modeling and things like that, you want to do a test render straight up off the bat just to see where your lights is at, obviously. So once you get that set up, started, and that initiation point, then you can work around it. So currently, this is the front view of the character in the XYZ plane coordinate. This is the front view. You got the left view over here. We have the right view of the character here, and then behind the character will be the back view. So if you had the actual gizmo, if you hit the minus sign of the X axis, which goes on the horizontal plane, it will flip it to a side view. If you hit the X itself, it will flip it to another side view. So let me show you that real quick. So now we're going to get out of the camera view, and we're just going to hit the 0 key on the keypad just to get out of the camera view. So now what we're in is the negative X plane, and this is the side view of it. So that I did just to bring up the character. I mean, bring up the camera, not the character. Sorry about that. So to bring up the camera. So if I want to go back to the frontal view, I have to select the -Y. And let's just temporarily hide the camera so we can see the character's face. We're going to hit the H key on the keyboard to hide the character. So now you're seeing it in a frontal view. See, so that's the front view. So the reason why I talked about view is because when it comes to where your lighting is set up, your light is all the way up here if you have it set up by default the way that Blender starts the viewport from the developer settings. So if you want to add more lights, you can add more lights, but make sure that the lights is somewhat near the character. Because if you don't add lights near the character, it's not really going to look that good. Like I said, this is the product, the end product, and this is not a great render. This is very low quality because you can't really see all the contours of the face. You can't really see it look in any way look good. It's not looking good. It's like the character or the person, the 3D models in a dark room, but then the background is gray. Like, this is really low quality. So to improve the quality at this point in juncture, you want to manipulate the lights. So I can take this light here and I can move it down if I want, or I can hit the Shift D key and duplicate it. That's the quickest way to do it. And then move the light within a range that's near the character. And then duplicate again and move another light on the other side. And then I can rotate and do the same thing. Front and back. I can move the lights somewhere near the character and just play around with positions and see where I want to move lights at. And add as many lights as I want. But you don't want to go crazy with your lights, obviously. You want to have a good amount of lights. Now what I'm doing is rotating out of the frontal view and the side view and all that. Now I want to see how the lights are extremely affecting the scene. So as you can see, it's super lit. So what that may mean is that you might have to take each individual light and bring it down. So you select one light as opposed to the other, and then you go into the light settings, which is the object data properties for the light. And you can play around and drag sliders in this area here, which is very similar to the sliders of the add-on. What I'm going to do at this moment is hide certain things in the Blender viewport area. So I'm going to hide the add-on by using the N key on the keyboard. I select the N key on the keyboard, it hides it. And I'm going to hide the tool menu for the tool controls for my mouse. So this is more like the mouse selectivity controls. So I'm going to hit the T on the keyboard to hide that so I can see everything that I can possibly see. Another thing you can do is hit the control key on the keyboard and hit the space bar, and then it hides all of this portion of the right side of the screen. If you want everything to go away, you do control space bar and then do control alternate space bar, and everything will go away. So you can see the whole viewport. And now you can play around and really manipulate the lights how you see fit. To bring it back, you do control alternate space bar and it brings it all back. So these are the things that I recently learned by picking up different things from watching tons of YouTube videos and things like that. So everybody has something to offer. I don't care who you are. It can be anybody. Somebody picked up something from somebody else, and once you learn about it, it's going to go into your Blender toolbox. So now let's play around with the sliders over here. So we have the power level set at 1000. Let's drop it down to 500 just to see what it does. And that's not a big dramatic change. So now we're going to go to another light and drop that one down to 500. And now you can see a slight change on her hair. So this back portion of her hair. Oh, sorry about that. Whenever I move the mouse, you're not gonna hear me that well. So now the back portion of the hair is great. Everything looks good. But it's standing out in a different light, obviously. So we're gonna drop that light again to about 200, just to see what it does to the hair. That's not bad. So we'll leave that one at 200. Let's go for the lights that are set up in front of the face. So what I want to do here, I'm going to get out of cycles so that way I don't have any issues when I'm moving my mouse. Go to Eevee. And we still could work with the hair and all of that stuff and the lighting and things like that. But now I'm not worried about too much about the my audio having issues when I move around things. So now we'll go for the upper left light. We'll drop that down to like 100 just to see. And as you can see, the lighting changed. So now I'm just going to maneuver around and get closer to her and adjust the slider. And bring it all the way down to like close. Actually, I brought it up to 300. Let's bring it all the way down close to 0 and see what it does. So at 0, this is how it looks. So let's bring it back to 500. You see how much light it produces? It generates a lot of light. So we want it to be set around maybe 100. And now you see that it takes a lot of light away, and it gives it more of a curvature of the nose to look more realistic. See? So if it was set at 1,000, hold on one second. What just happened? Edit, undo. Somehow I pressed the button and the character disappeared. If the light was set at 1,000, that's way too bright, so the curvature doesn't look that great of the nose. You see that? Because it's too bright. So that's why I brought it down. All right, so let's go for the right light and bring this one down to about 50. And now that takes out a lot of light. See that? So a lot of light came out of that one. But now what we want to do is move that light closer. So we can drag it closer to her face. Get it over to the right. And bring it down. And bring it closer. Because what we want that light to do is to be an approximate adjuster. So we can play with adjustment. See? Zoom in and zoom out, and it can adjust appropriately and accordingly. If I want more light or less. So I'm gonna leave it like that. That's not bad. And we want to slide it a little bit more to the left. Let's see where it's positioned with respect to her face. Bring it down a little bit. Bring it a little bit more to the left. And bring it more front. And there we go. That should be a good position for that light. Because it gives just enough brightness for the face to really stand out. Now, this light on the upper left, we're going to have to bring it out a little bit more. Because I don't want it to affect the face too much. I just want it to have some sort of lighting there. Now, the backlight, this is too bright. Because if you look at her neck, let me see. See her neck area has so much light shining on it. It's just too bright. So these two lights you want to bring down dramatically. So we're going to bring it down to 100. And then bring the other one down to maybe like 150. There we go. So now it's not too much light on her back and her neck. Bam. So at that point, now I want to do another test render. Just to see. And I want to move the camera a little bit. So I want to bring back the camera. To bring it back is alternate H on the keyboard. Brings the camera back. Let me hide the bones again. What we're going to do is, actually, let's bring back the bones. And we're going to put the 3D cursor around where the head is at. So we're going to do alternate H. Make sure to select the bones. And go to pose mode. And then we're going to select the head bone. This bone up here. And then we're going to use Shift S on the keyboard. And then we're going to send the cursor to selected. So now the 3D cursor is right up here, approximately at the tail of the head bone. So the reason why I brought that there is because I want to rotate the camera. So we're going to go to object mode and we're going to select the camera, and I want to rotate the camera around the Z axis. So the vertical axis, the Z is the vertical. See the Z here in the gizmo? So the Z axis is going up and down, the blue axis basically. And we want to rotate not 360, but a good amount around the 3D cursor. How you rotate around a specific axis, you go up here where it says transform pivot point, and you click it, and you choose where you want to rotate around. So you can rotate around the individual origin, but that individual origin will be rotating basically around the element that you have selected in the viewport. So right now the 3D element / asset that I have selected is the camera. So I don't want to rotate around the camera's axis, because then that's just going to basically rotate away from the face. So to rotate the camera where the face is the center, and I get the camera to rotate around, that's why I put the 3D cursor there. So I go to this option here for the pivot, and then make sure I select 3D cursor. So now the camera is going to pivot around the 3D cursor. So I do rotate, and I press the Z key on the keyboard. So I press the R key and the Z key one after the next. And now, as you can see, there's a blue line that shows up. So that means that the camera is going to rotate around the Z axis. See that? That's the full 360 rotation. So now I can position the camera anywhere around the head of the character. So I want around maybe this position, something like that. And then we'll do a render. So it's going to render the exact position like that. To prove it, I just hit the 0 key on the keyboard, and that's the position that's going to show up. Actually, I can do the rotation of the camera in this position here too, where it's displaying where the camera's at. So I do R, Z, and now it just rotates the character's head. See, it looks, well, the whole entire body's rotating, but basically it's rotating the camera around the character. So we're gonna left click to select it to make sure I got that position selected, and now I'm gonna go to render and hit the render image. Now this is the Eevee render. So that's why I chose cycles in the beginning, because cycles gives a better output of the character model. It looks a lot better. All the textures, everything looks much better. Eevee is just something of a quick render that you can do, that it doesn't take too long. It's just like a test render basically. It's more photoreal. I mean, the cycles renderer is more photorealistic basically. The Eevee render is kind of toy-like, kind of clay-like. It's not the best render that you can get. So I'm gonna switch it over to the cycles render, and now I'm gonna do it again. All right, so the render's done. Sorry about the audio issue. I'll try to scratch that off the surface of the video once I get to edit it. But yeah, the lighting basically brings out the texture and makes it look a little bit more real, a little more photorealistic. So I just basically moved the lights around like y'all folks saw me do. So now this is what my render looks like. So I can manipulate and play a lot more with the lighting positions, but I'm pretty happy with how the texture looks. Not 100%, but I can keep adjusting and manipulating to my heart's content and desire until I really get the exact detail that I want it to look like. So at this moment, I'll show y'all folks a lot of the other renders that I was able to produce and come up with, so you can get a little bit of a bird's eye view of an idea and all that of what you can do. So this was a render that I did a while back. I would say about a week ago or so, playing around and manipulating the eyes and things like that, and the skin. And this is what basically you can do. You can pull off some amazing renders. So this is not the full face. This is obviously just for the screen capture that I did for the actual live stream that I'm doing today. So this is the thumbnail that I use for the live stream pretty much. So this is the full face here. So this is a character that wasn't fully finalized. I was just playing around with the textures and stuff. Well, it was finalized, but it was in the phase 2. I didn't put any clothes on it, nothing like that. I just wanted to get a render just to see if it looks human, looks real. So I was playing around, and this is like the best render that I got, one of the best renders. And then eventually the computer kind of messed up. I had like a little issue where the computer froze up a little bit, but I figured out why it's freezing. It's because of when I choose not to use the computer for a certain amount of time, the computer goes into some sleep mode and all this crazy stuff, and then when I bring it back, I can't access the files the same way for some reason. But let's actually, we're gonna go to the photo viewer for Windows, so y'all folks can see a little bit better in terms of moving fast through it. So let's see, we'll go to this over here. And I showed this in my previous live stream, but I just want to show y'all folks, for whoever is tuning in, this may be something that you think is worthy of acknowledgement. Let's see. So this is one of my first ones that I worked on of a female character, and pretty much she looks like the character that you see now, kind of with the texture itself. So the texture and the lighting is not that great, but it was a start. And then the hair obviously looks a little stiff, like it's not really, it doesn't look too realistic. But I kept manipulating and playing around with the positions of the face, with the camera adjustment and the background lighting. I put dark setting. I really did like the eyes here, and the textures standing out pretty decent. It's looking closer and closer to real or realistic. Now I played with the hair and got it to a certain degree much better than what it looked like. And then here I put in the makeup for the lips and things like that. Hair looks a lot better, obviously. And then over here I was playing around with the eyebrows just to see the contrast of the colors, see how it brings out the face. And also I think over here I have the denoiser activated, so it went in and it got rid of a lot of the unpolished surface of the face. But also I activated the I forgot exactly what they call it, but let me go real quick into that option on Blender. I always forget about this. There's something about scattering, or hold on one second. subsurface scattering. That's what it is. So I always forget what the subsurface scattering is, what it's called. For some reason, I don't know why I always forget that, but that's this option here, subsurface. You get the option to adjust or add a subsurface scattering layer to your texture, and I'll show y'all folks that when I get to it. But pretty much it brings out the texture of the character's face and makes it look more real. So this one, I don't think it has the subsurface scattering activated. So let me just show you real quick when I activate it. So it's a good thing to talk about while I'm there. Sorry about that, you didn't get to hear it. So it's a good thing to talk about while I'm there. Cycles was rendering in the viewport. My bad. So we got the main mesh, 3 mesh selected. So let me just bring up the viewport, deselect that, and let's go back to the creation phase because that's where it's set at, I believe. The skin settings. Yeah, there it is. So in the skin settings option, you go where it says subsurface scattering and you select on. When you do that, it off the bat looks a lot better, the skin. So we're going to do a render again, but we'll also change one of the render adjustments because I want it to go kind of fast. So in order to make your render to go fast, let me hit the N key on the keyboard to hide that because I'm done with the subsurface scattering option. What you want to do is go to this time limit option for the sampling in the viewport. You should have render as well. So no, it's in the render. So it's here where it says render. You go to time limit, and I'm gonna set it for like 20 seconds. When you do that, it's gonna render very fast. So the 500 samples, once the 20 seconds is up, it's gonna try to render the 500 samples. So it's just gonna jump in real quick. So we're gonna go to render and try it one more time. I'm not gonna talk when it renders. I keep forgetting this part, but we're gonna render image. All right, so it jumped in and it tried to render the 500 samples, but it will freeze at that point as well. So that's why it's not necessarily used much, that time thing. Now, if I throw the denoiser on, it will go in and try to render it super fast, but the hair will go blurry. So let's just try that real quick. We'll select the denoise option. So I got the denoise selected, and now we're gonna render. And I'm not going to talk again during this portion. So let's see. And there you go. That looks pretty realistic. So I'm just giving y'all folks different phases and stages of what you can build up to in terms of your rendering. And the better you in terms of the more you work on it, the more you adjust, slight adjustments here and there and things like that, eventually your renders will start to look really, really amazing. Definitely, most definitely with this add-on, this human generator add-on. So as you can see, I didn't really do too much. All I did was set up the it's at 500 the render sample rate. So what the render sample rate does is basically it will go in and fine tune the render and bring out more details in the pixels. Also, the shadow will stand out a lot better. The lighting will look a little different. May not be 100% better, but it will look a little bit different. Everything will be maximized to a higher detail, and the photorealism basically will increase. So right now I'm at 500. If I set it at like 1,000, you'll see it's going to stand out a little bit more. So I'll do that once, and then I'm not going to play with it too much because I want to show y'all folks the adjustments of the like the makeup and stuff like that. Sorry about that. So let's just flip it to 1,000 samples on the max sample rate. And at the minimum, we're gonna adjust to about 100. And we're gonna change the time limit to 60 seconds. So we'll do 1M for 1 minute. So now we're good with that, and we'll go for one more render. And then I'll back out and I'll show y'all folks how to play around with the makeup and stuff like that. So there you go. It doesn't look much better, but I guarantee you it changed slightly. So the eyes stand out a little bit more. Every little thing, every little detail just stands out just a little bit more. Sorry about that. I just need some water. All right, so we're gonna go out of here, and the very next one that I bring in is gonna have all of the background changed. Before I do the background, I'm just gonna bring in the clothing. No, I have the clothing. Sorry about that. I'm gonna bring in the makeup. So let's just switch over from Eevee. From cycles to Eevee, just to manipulate quicker without any issues. So we're gonna go out. Now we're out of the camera view. We're gonna hide the camera and the bones. And now we're just gonna bring in, we're gonna also hide the 3D cursor and everything else in the background by selecting this here, show overlays. Because what I want to do is basically focus on the face and the makeup pretty much. So this is going to be the makeup portion of the live stream. So what we're going to do is hit the N key on the keyboard, select the mesh. We can hide this if we want as well by selecting this option here that says show gizmo. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in. Oh, hold on. think this is where the makeup was at. Skin settings. Yeah, where it says makeup. So we go to the makeup. Now we can apply different things with the makeup. So everything is set by default at 0. So keep that in mind. The makeup hasn't been applied at all. So if you want to say you wanted to add lipstick or something like that, you can go in and try. But initially you won't see too much going on. See, it didn't go in all the way. Reason is because when you're playing around with this portion, you have to also manipulate the tone, the redness, the saturation, things like that. So let's turn down the saturation a little bit and bring it up just to see what it does. See? Now the redness, take it off, put it on. All that plays into how the character looks. The tone, when you bring down the tone, that's when the lipstick starts to come out. So you don't want that part to be too crazy. Maybe like this a little bit and then add some saturation. You want to play around and manipulate just slightly back and forth to get a good zone of reference. You don't want it to be too out of control. So you just keep playing with that until you get what you want the face to look like, pretty much. The normal strength, that basically will determine whether you got an old character with wrinkles and things like that, or if you want the skin to look somewhat perfect. There's no such thing as perfection with human skin. Some people, they play around and they use all kinds of different oils and all kinds of stuff on their face to get rid of blemishes. They use makeup, obviously, to hide the blemishes and things like that. So you can play around with that kind of stuff too. What I'm doing here, this is the roughness. So I'm making it have like a more oily look or more dry. So that's the driest that the character could be. One of the driest. You keep going far out with the roughness if you wanted to. And it gets more and more dry. And then you can bring the roughness back the other way towards 0. And then you'll start to see the texture looking a little realistic. So you just want to be patient and fine-tune things to really get it to stand out. So I kind of like it like that to some degree. It's not too oily, not too dry. And I'll just manipulate a little bit on the texture. And that makes it look a little bit more real. Like that. So other than that, I'll go back in and try to play with like foundation. See what the foundation does? It kind of gets rid of that bad look of the eyes. Like kind of like gets rid of all of that. The blush is kind of hard to bring out, I think, depending on what your other settings are. Eyeshadow, you can bring out the eyeshadow. See that? So if you want the eyeshadow to look a little different, you have to change the color. So it's up to you what you want to do with this part. Just playing around with it and try to get like really cool, stylish look or something like that. You don't have to go too crazy, but I don't know. I'm just playing around. So I got lipstick. Let's go with the eyeliner. Throw in some eyeliner. Maybe a darker look. And then that brings out the eyes a little bit more. So now I'm just gonna go and switch over the background. So we're gonna go in and we're going to change the world opacity. And we're going to change the strength. And I'll decrease or eliminate this makeup panel. And then back up the character so you can see the background a little bit. And get rid of the blur to some degree. And then reduce the strength. And increase the world opacity. Maybe leave the blur a little bit more. See, so you can play around with the background like that. And then you can also, these are the HDRI backgrounds, by the way, so you can select over here and then you can change the HDRI in the background. You can also rotate it. So you can use the rotation tool here. There's a rotation option. You can put her in any kind of scene that you want. And then you go in and render and see what the render looks like. So we're going to go in and render it in cycles. And if you want this render to show up in cycles, you have to do some special stuff. I did a research and I found out how to get the background to render. This background that you see here, it doesn't necessarily work when you go to the render option. It's going to turn out with a dark background still. So let's just show you real quick. It's going to show up as a dark background. All right, so that just proves that it's going to show up as a dark background. If you want to evade that and still get the type of background that you're looking for the what you're seeing here, what I recommend for you to do is scroll out, highlight the character, hide it, and then take a screenshot of the whole thing. But before you take a screenshot, you're going to do Control Alternate Spacebar. Actually, let's go back. Go to Window and then toggle full screen. Then do Control Alternate Spacebar. And this gives you the full screen view of what you're trying to get the background to look like. So what you want to do is select Print Screen on your keyboard. And that allows you to store a screenshot. You can also get like a tool that does it for you. So I got a tool that's known as Snipping Tool for Windows. You can select it, hit New, and then select the portion of the screen that you want to snip, highlight it, and bam, it turns into a background. So you can do that kind of stuff. X out of there. And it's up to you, you know, whatever you choose to do. Use the print screen is easier. So when you select print screen, now you can go to like Microsoft Windows or any photo editor. It could be Photoshop or whatever. And let's see. Let's just type in Paint. Microsoft Paint. Get the Microsoft Paint app and then just paste it and store it. But you don't want to store it at this big, large size, because when you put it into Blender, it's not going to be good to have it at a super huge size. You want it at a little smaller size. So maybe you drop it down to about 1,000, something like that. And then save it. Save as PNG. And let's see, we'll put it in the Rise folder for renders. even though it's not a render, and we'll call it back, short for background. Save it. And then what we're gonna do is go up to the top of the screen or use the escape key. Actually, no. Control alternate spacebar. Then go to window, toggle full screen to bring this back. And then we're gonna do alternate H to unhide the character and bring her in. Okay, so now the character's in. We're gonna go to the world icon, the world properties, drag this out a little bit, and we're gonna select where it says color. And then from where you select this color option, this little dot, you're gonna go to image texture. And then from image texture, you're gonna open this folder here. You go to open now, you're gonna go and select that image that you took. So I don't know why it looks like that, because that's not actually what I have as an image. Let's go in real quick and go to the Paint app again. File, recent, back. What happened to the sizing? Let's see. Pixels. Something wrong with that. 1000 resize. Oh, this is a different one. Hold on. Let's just open. Don't save. Oh, okay, I see what happened. The borders wasn't deleted. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna do it again. Save. And then go back in. Hit the up arrow. Render. What just happened? Come on. Select this and then go open image. So once you do that, it's pretty much set up, but not all the way. So you're gonna go to vector, select the default option, and then go to window. What this does is basically set it up so that it brings the render to a good position. But you have to hit the 0 key on the keyboard to bring up the camera so you can see what it's going to render. This basically is setting up the background image to be rendered through the camera view. So now this is what it's going to render with you. So you go to render, go render image, and it's going to show up that background that we preset because of all those settings I put in the world properties. So we're going to go render, and what I recommend for you to do is also deselect the denoiser at this point. But I'm just going to render it just so you can see what the denoiser does. It like shows up as some weird looking lights sometimes and sprinkles of colored lights and things like that. But when you're doing it, you deselect the denoiser and then it just takes a little longer, actually a lot longer for the render to go through, but it's worth it because you'll see that the quality of the render is jumped up very high because of the background. See, so you see what it did with the lights? It went crazy with the lights. See? So it did all this sprinkling of colors and all of that stuff. So if I take off the denoiser, it's going to take a lot longer to do the render. But as you can see, the texture is not too bad, but the denoiser does mess up how it really looks. So I'm going to go in and take off the denoiser and see how long it takes. It may take a while, but it might be worth it to see, for y'all folks to see how it renders. So to get rid of the denoiser, I have to go to the render option up here and just deselect denoise. Now when I go to render, it's gonna, all those crazy colorful lights are gonna go away. And it's gonna render 1000 samples. So it may not show up too good because I have 1 minute. So let's try 2 minutes. I don't know if that takes too long to render for y'all folks, but we'll go through it and just see what it looks like. All right, so that's pretty much it. It's still having some sprinkled lighting issues, but if I was to render it without the timer, all those little dots will go away. But this just gives you a bird's eye view of what you can do with the texture. As you can see, the facial appearance looks really, really good. The only thing is right now, I just have to increase the light. So if I increase the light a little bit, it will bring out the facial features even more, and it will look even more real. And I'm not going to play too much with these renders because it takes a long time for the render to come out. But I'll do a finished product and then try to like maybe add it in a future video just to show y'all folks what I came out with for Rise. She looks pretty decent. And she definitely looks real. I think she's pretty. So let's hit the 0 key on the keyboard and just zoom in a little. So there goes Rise right there. Let me play around a little bit with the roughness. Just a slight bit, add a little bit of the liquidy look. And I think everything else is good. For the hair, you can adjust the hair a little bit as well. So how you adjust the hair, you would have to go in through this method here. So you go through the outliner and you basically find a certain portion, HG body, default, so female default or female body default, and then you select here head, and then you go down here where it says material properties, and then from that point you can play around. It gives you options through the surface, and then you can change the roughness. So let me bring the roughness down. By bringing the roughness down a little bit, it's going to make it a little bit more realistic looking. You can change the color of the hair and all kinds of different stuff. I'm going to add the roots. And I think that's good. Maybe change this a little bit. Fast, accurate. All right, so let's take off this minutes. Set it at 0. And see what it does at maybe 300 samples. It should not take too long. We'll try this one more time, one more render. Oh, and then I'm gonna bring up the lighting as well. So let's zoom out real quick. We're gonna increase the power level from 100. And set it at like, we're gonna set it at like close to 200. And then we're gonna render it. Okay, so the render isn't working that great, and I know why. It's because I have this background set up a certain way. That background setting is not the best background setting, by the way. So it's just something that you're gonna have to deal with. It's probably much better to render in the viewport with the background that you have set up showing. So we'll do that. We'll get rid of the world thing so we don't have to worry about it. So we'll close that. Hit this and then maybe remove. Here we go. So we got that removed. We're not worried about this. We're not going to play around with this world thing. Instead, we're just going to render in the viewport. It's probably better because just trying to do it that way is just going to take too long for it to show. So we're going to set this at like 1,000 in the viewport. Set the minimum samples to 100. Then we're going to switch over from material preview to rendered. And that should work. All right, so the rendering is done. It actually didn't take too long. I thought it took longer, but as you can see, this is a very high quality visual. on the render because of the background. And then I used the denoiser just to see what it would look like, just to play around to make it quicker. Denoiser speeds up the process. If I don't use the denoiser, to render in 1,000 samples is going to take maybe about 3 minutes to 5 minutes, or maybe more. I'm not sure, but I think this looks really, really good, even despite the fact that I have the denoiser activated through the viewport. And if I wanted to actually render this out as an output, all I would have to do is just capture a screenshot or something like that. And I can use the snipping tool like I was telling you. So hold on one second. Got all these things open. So we're gonna go with the snipping tool and just grab just a small snippet of it. All right, so there we go with that, and then I can save it. And I'll call her Rise. I was gonna call her Risen, but I just figured excuse me, Rise is a better name. I don't know. So there you go. Hopefully y'all folks like this render and the process that I developed for y'all folks to pretty much get the best renders that you could. Obviously you can do even better than this, but the lighting that I have is somewhat mild. It's not that strong. I have a, it's not lit, super lit. So all right, so hopefully y'all folks saw the benefits of playing around with the lighting and all kinds of different adjustments, the background, so much that you can do to play around and try to come up with the best well lit scene and adjust the character to the best of your ability so you can get the texture to stand out, and the whatever contours of the character that you have, the makeup, etc. So if you want all of that to stand out, it just takes a little adjusting, a little time. You can get the viewport to render it and make it look really good. There's all kinds of different ways and methods you can use, but this is the way that I like to do it, and hopefully it's something that it pleases the viewer, whoever I'm showing the render to. You know, whenever I share my content, I'll probably share it on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. I don't know. And the models that look the realest are the ones that's going to get the most reactions. Now I didn't do the eyes, but I should play around with the eyes to get a little, nice standout look. So I totally forgot about that. How could I forget the eyes? I don't know. So let's see if I can get the eyes setting. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I doubt it. I don't see any of the eye settings. So I made a big error with that. Hey, what's up, babe?
Mike,
Yeah.
if you happen to go to Stop and Shop, can you get me 3 plantains, the green one?
I'll see what I could do. I don't have any money at the moment.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. You're gonna help me with the vacuum, yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, then.
All right, babe. All right. Bye-bye. So yeah, I kind of messed up with the eyes, but it's much better to work on the eyes, I guess. Come up with a different color. I think I can actually go in with the eyes though over here. So let's see. Go to this option, then go here, and let's see. Eyes inner, and just look for the color. Yeah, you would have to find it in the shader setting, I think. So let's go to shader editor and see what we got here. Yeah, it's in this multiply area. So this is the color for the eyes. So I can go in and manipulate like that. I think green is nice. Yeah, like a light green. Okay. Green looks crazy actually. But when I render it, it's gonna look better, I guess. This is rendered in Eevee. So let's switch it to cycles. that's it. Thing is done rendering. Hopefully it is, and you can hear me. But yeah, as you can see, I stand out really, really good. And I took off the denoising. It turned out to being more. So I don't know if I'll do that. It's gonna take a long time for it to render. Like I said, so you're gonna be staring at the screen. And I pretty much have to end this session anyway. I have a meeting coming up soon. So I'll end the session around here. But yeah, this character definitely was a really, really nice workout of my 3D skills using the human generator add-on. Hopefully all of this stuff that y'all folks got to see and hear was helpful, and it can benefit you when you're trying to create your own characters using it. I'm going to be doing more of these, more sessions over time, but I may cut it down to a much smaller segment. I'm not sure, but I just wanted folks to see what you really have to go through, what you really got to do to really bring out the quality and try to make it stand out. Some people out here who are Blender creators, content creators, they're 3D artists and stuff, they're really creative. So don't limit yourself to what you see. Look at what other people are doing and try to see if you can go a little bit further past your limitations. That's what I recommend. Like some people, they can manipulate the facial features and make the facial look a little bit even more highly detailed. Like they'll go in and mess around with the differing maps that build up the textures of the face and stuff like that, and they'll come up with some really unique looking character models. Just the visuals themselves are not stagnant. Like you don't have to get stuck with one look. You can go in and manipulate and to a high degree come up with something that's totally unique looking. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I like how it turned out, even though I have the denoiser set up and it's a little blurry looking in certain areas. But I'm gonna dig deeper on this character and come up with the best renders that I could, and I'll show y'all folks, like I said, in another session that's just all about rendering, like, or just all about the end product, which is what people are trying to get out of it. They're trying to get a very high quality photorealistic how would you say, look and appeal of the character model that they're trying to come up with. Most people want to try to like destroy the uncanny valley, which is not easy to do. And then when you animate the character, it will look more and more like a real human. That's pretty interesting that someone can create a 3D model that looks almost identical to a real human. And that may play in your favor when you're trying to do like metaverse stuff, because the metaverse is supposed to basically simulate the real world kind of in a way and be like a VR simulation type of thing, virtual reality, whatever. So if you want to create characters like that, maybe like an avatar for yourself, I think it would be really nice to go for it. And most definitely the human generator add-on could help. There's other things out there. There's like metahumans that are from Unreal Engine Epic Games. They have this metahuman creator, which you can create characters very similar, human characters, and they look real. There's all kinds of different tools. There's Character Creator 3 or something like that by I think it's Real Illusion or whatever. They have all these different tools out there. I used to use a tool known as Make Human, but it doesn't come up with the characters in super high quality like what you see here. It's kind of like an older iteration of a model, meaning the tool itself was back from a while back, maybe about